uno de los máximos líderes de los Hare Krishnas, consejero espiritual de grandes personalidades y asesor de un sinfín de proyectos, y habló del papel en el mundo de un líder. Muchos los hemos visto cantando y bailando. Ellos son seguidores del Hare Krishna. Uno de los máximos líderes de los Hare Krishnas, consejero espiritual de grandes personalidades y asesor de un sinfín de proyectos, y habló del papel en el mundo de un líder. Muchos los hemos visto cantando y bailando. Ellos son seguidores del Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Kirtan. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Highly leer. Leer, nice.
सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mother. Humble obeisances. Nice to see you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna
Bol.
Mother. You are welcome. Nice to see you again.
You too. You too. I'm very happy to be here. As always, I'm always happy to be with my Ghanaian family.
Yes. Thank you. I put the verse on the screen so we can start.
Thank you so much. My Ghanaian and Nigerian, and anywhere, everywhere in the world, right? We're
Yes.
a wonderful family. Thank you so much. Hari Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 30. And the verses here. Okay. Dehi nityam avadyoyam, dehi sarvasya bharata, tasmat savani bhutani, natvam sochitam arhasi. Srila Prabhupada's translation. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord concludes the chapter of instruction on the insurmountable spirit soul. On the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhishma and Drona, will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body. Not that there is no such thing as a soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity, resulting from the interactions of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. Om Ganati Mirandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Jakshu Amlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalan Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vandavaneshwari Rishabhanusata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vastatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktivedanta Tinamine Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Bol. So I just read the translation again. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living entity. Wonderful verse. This text 30 is actually a summarization of all that you have been, well, at least a section of the Bhagavad Gita. I believe that section begins from chapter 12, from text 12. So this section is helping us to understand about the soul. And we have this dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna that is explaining, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about why it is important not to lament when the soul leaves the body. So this is such a important part of bhakti. This is Bhakti 101. Bhakti 101, when we come to the temple, we hear a couple of things. Chant Hare Krishna, that's one. And then we hear, you're not the body. and then we hear that why we're not the body, how to understand we're a spirit soul. And I can recall in those early days of Krishna consciousness that one of the conversations that we would have together as devotees in the very beginning would always be, yes, we're not the soul. We're part and parcel of Krishna. We're not the soul. I mean, we are the soul. We're not the body. We're not the body. We're part and parcel of Krishna. And so here we will understand this conclusion of this understanding about not being the soul. So Krishna makes 4 points in this last verse, in this text 30, because this is a summarization of this understanding about the soul. This is the conclusion that the soul is who we are, that we are as living entities, the soul. And so in the first summarization of these verses about the soul, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that about the identity of the living entity. And he explains that the living entity is immutable. That means unchanging. The living entity is unchanging because we are spirit souls. And we can understand this concept from going back into some of those texts. And all of you are Bhagavad Gita students now, Bhagavad Gita experts. So if you go back and look into text 12, then we will understand this concept that Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about the identity of the living entity. And Krishna explains that individuality is never lost. That's in the 12th verse of the Bhagavad, of the second chapter. And he explains that all living entities are eternal and continue their individuality in the future without interpretation. Therefore, there's no need to lament for death. That's in 2:12, right? There we go. Natwame vaham jatu nasham, natwamne neme janad hi paha, nachaiva nabaf vishyamaha sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all the kings. I don't think that's the 12th. Is that yeah. Nor all the kings, nor future, shall any of you cease to be. So this is Krishna, yes, this is Krishna explaining this to Arjuna, that we've always existed. Never was there a time when we didn't exist. And so therefore, there's no need to lament because, yeah, this body, of course, will deteriorate. And then he explains to Arjuna about the body and how the body deteriorates. And he explains that the body goes through these different changes. And again, if we go back to the Bhagavad Gita, remember, this is a summarization verse. So here, Krishna is putting everything back together again for us to understand. And so if we look at chapter 13, chapter 13, text 6 and 7. So Kusha has got this so nicely organized. Text 6 and 7, we understand where Krishna is explaining the body is temporary. And he said the body is, of course, is born, it grows. These are some of the 6 changes of the body. It stays, it produces byproducts, it begins to decay, and then the last stage, it vanishes. So the body is born. So we can all understand that when a child takes birth, out of the womb, that's a new body. The child is taking a new body. And then we understand this, that the child will, grow, boyhood, to old. The child will grow from youth. Yes, here we go. This is such a beautiful, beautiful verse also. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhira vyaktameva cha indriyani dashakam cha panchachendriya gocharaha isha dvesha shukam dukham sangatas cheta triti etat chetram samashena savai karam udaritam. And so here the Sanskrit is explaining about these symptoms of the body. And there, Prabhupada's translation is the 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind. So these are all the 24 elements. And towards the end of this text, towards the end, then Krishna's Srila Prabhupada explains to us about the body that is changing, the 6 changes of the body. Right? Yeah, there we go. The body is the representation of all these factors. And there are changes of the body, which are 6. And so we understand this as we are aspiring devotees. This is an important part of the philosophy, to be able to explain to someone that may not understand the difference between the soul, to know that the body is temporary. It's important to go through these steps to help people to understand why the body is temporary. And so this point, Prabhupada explains that Arjuna says that the changes of the body it's still a cause for lamentation. Arjuna is explaining this. You still lament because you know, even though we're not the body, we have this understanding. And you know, Arjuna, he's so caught in his affection for his family members. So this dialogue between him and Krishna is so important, because he's definitely arguing with Krishna, and he's saying, yeah, but you know, this, even though there's this change, even though we go through these exchanges still. And then Krishna says, yeah, but the change of body is just as natural as change of from boyhood to old age, to youth, from boyhood to youth to old age to death. This is quite natural. And he says, therefore, no one should lament for this change. No one should lament. So Krishna is, you know, helping Arjuna to understand. And similarly, Arjuna is being an example for all of us to understand this, the essence of this teaching, that even though the body could still cause us some lamentation, even we can still lament, just like we saw this morning. I saw this on the Africa site about the condition of Pankajanagri Prabhu and him going now to the hospital in Kolkata. And so someone could say, well, why are we lamenting about this body? If this is your philosophy, you know, why are we lamenting about Pankajanagri Prabhu's body? Right? Krishna says there's no need to lament. So we need to understand the difference in when Krishna is speaking. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna to help him to understand, even though we know Arjuna is a pure devotee of the Lord and he's being used as an example. However, he's being used to help us to understand the nature of the conditioned souls, the nature of, you know, people that are in material body and in material consciousness that's covered by the 3 modes of material nature. And so the difference with that kind of lamentation, the difference with lamenting over someone that is basically not understanding that they're not the body, that they think they are the body. The difference is that Pankajanagri Prabhu is the pure devotee of the Lord, and that he's fully aware that he's not his body. You know, his whole life has been dedicated in the service of the Lord. And so there is a difference in us as naturally supporters of wanting Pankajanagri Prabhu to stay with us so that he can continue in his service. That type of lamentation is a lamentation like Narottam Thakur prays. You know, he prays in this mood of lamenting for the great devotees when they leave. And we see in the pastime of Haridas Thakur that when Haridas Thakur left his body, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu physically hugged him, and physically carried him. So there's a difference with understanding the pure devotees and understanding those that may still think that they're their bodies. And most of the world, people think that they are their bodies. And so Krishna says, don't, he's explaining this, that we shouldn't, it's important to not lament for people that leave their bodies that are not on that level of pure devotees. They're not pure devotees of the Lord. And then Krishna, he tells Arjuna, this point about that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. He explains that. So this is, again, an important aspect of our philosophy. If this is kind of like the beginning of understanding Krishna consciousness, and this is explained for us in text number 18, because as I keep reminding us that this is this verse that we're studying today, that we're reading today, is a summary of verses from text 12. From text 12, Krishna has been explaining this to Arjuna, this understanding. We're not the body, we're the soul. We're not the body, we're the soul. And he gives them all kinds of different arguments as to how to understand that we're not this body. And so in understanding that we're the soul, then the Lord, he explains to Arjuna this, yes, in text 18, Antavanta ime deha nityas yokta saririnaha anashino apameyasya tasmat yudyasya. Can't remember that one. Okay. Bharata, yes. So he's telling to Arjuna, son of Bharata. And so now he's explaining to Arjuna about this immeasurable and eternal living entity is sure to come again and again. So he's reminding Arjuna, but you got to fight, Arjuna. You got to fight. And Prabhupada says the material body is perishable. It's perishable by nature. And so then Krishna gives this, he gives Arjuna this understanding about how the soul, what is the soul? Try to let us understand what is the soul. And so he says that the soul is indestructible and therefore never dies. And so the body may perish, or after 100 years, we may, still have this, we may live for 100 years, but still, even after 100 years, yesterday, we had one of our members here in Gitanagari. He's 90 years old, and he went to take the shots, the vaccines, and it was quite interesting because he was interviewed by the news. The news interviewed him because he's elderly. He's 90 years old, and so he was sharing with the news media. And that, look, I'm 90 years old, so I'm almost dead. I'm almost dead. And he's quite healthy, very healthy person. He says, and I have an understanding. He's saying this to the news. I know that this body that I have is temporary. I know that I won't be in this body very long. Why am I taking these vaccine? Because I want to travel. I want to go see my grandchildren. I want to get on the plane. And so he was explaining like this to these news people who were kind of like a little bit amazed that this person, first of all, is 90 years old. And that, he's very healthy and very strong, and is talking about traveling. And so the understanding here is that even if we live to 90 or 100, and even if we're healthy at 90 or 100, the fact is that we will still leave these bodies. That's the reality of being in a material body. And so because of this, it's important to understand who we really are. And it's because of this, we need to understand who the soul is, because we're told we're the soul. And so let's hear about some of the things about some of the characteristics about the soul that we can understand from that text we just looked at, that the soul we know is indestructible. It cannot be killed, right? We can't kill the soul. We can kill the body, but the soul, because it's why? Because it's part and parcel of Krishna, Satchidananda, right? And so the soul is immeasurable, it's indestructible, it's immeasurable, it's too small to be measured. The soul is, how does this help us to understand this point about lamentation? The body, so we explain about the body, can be here with us. We can be in these bodies for however many years. However, the soul is immeasurable, right? It's immeasurable. That's here in this 18th verse. It's too small to be measured by any material means. Prabhupada says that it's 1/10,000, the tip of a hair, which, is not visible by these material eyes. So it's difficult to understand, but we know that the soul is alive. How do we know? We know that the soul gives life because, and we know this example, we tell this example all the time, that when a body dies, that people really cry. Sometimes people cry and they mourn and they go through, so many different emotional changes about the body. However, this body, when we are crying about this body, we're saying, oh, he or she is gone, it's gone, it's gone. But still, that body is still there, right? We still see the body. So the body is there, it's going to be burnt, it's going to go, either cremated or go into the ground. So something we know has left. And now most people don't know what left. Something is not there. There's something, the life force has gone. So from that, we can understand that the soul is who we really are, that the life
It's 2020.
Okay, that's in text 20. Yeah, the soul is steady. And the soul does not undergo these 6 changes like the body. Yeah, thank you, Kusha. We're simply summarizing some of these verses that you already studied. You already have these verses. And the reason we're summarizing is only because in this text, Prabhupada is explaining these 4 points again. He's bringing us back to understanding these 4 very important points. And so, this soul and the body, Jagiraj, the soul and the body is so important for us to understand the difference between the soul and the body, and to understand that philosophically. So the soul never undergoes changes, and as the body does. And because we know that for the soul, there's neither birth nor death, and he does not come into being, and does not come into being, and will not come into being, that the soul is unborn, is eternal, existing, primeval. And yes, there we go. Thank you, Kusha. You're ahead of me here. This is so great. And so, so again, Krishna is refuting Arjuna's arguments, because Arjuna is giving these really good arguments. Arjuna is like explaining to Krishna, he says, but we do lament for the loss of youth and old age. We do lament, when we get older, we lament, we get sad, like I explained about this, this devotee who's 90 years old. So he knows, he's fully aware that he's going to be leaving his body, at any time. And he always tells us about his youth. He's always sharing things he used to do when he was a young man and growing up, and he's always remembering some of his activities. And so Arjuna is saying, yeah, but we lament, Krishna, we lament when we change bodies. And then Krishna says, but the thing is, however, Arjuna, the thing to understand is that Bhishma and Drona, those persons that you really are lamenting about, that they're going to get fresh bodies. They're going to get different bodies, right? And these bodies that they are going to get will most likely go to a heavenly kingdom, go to a heavenly planet. They'll take birth in a heavenly kingdom, or they'll get spiritual bodies. So even though you're lamenting, there's no need to lament. There's no need to lament, Arjuna. And he explains, he says, he gives us, we have this example of King Yayati in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how he traded his old age to get a fresh, youthful body. And he was rejoicing because that's the change. The body will always change, and the body will always take another body. And so here, Krishna is, explaining that to Arjuna. Don't, even though we're going to change these bodies, we're going to get another young body. Don't lament about this. But then Arjuna says, but attachment to the current body of relatives will still be a cause of lamentation on you losing them, right? We all are aware of that. As aspiring devotees, of course, it's a little different, as we said. However, I can think of my own situation with my mother. My mother is almost 90 years old also. And I also know that she's going to be leaving at any time. And so my mother is not a devotee of the Lord. She's not aspiring to be a devotee of the Lord. Everyone is a devotee. However, they may not know it. But my mom, she's not aspiring to be a devotee. She's actually a materialist. And so now, am I going to lament about the when my mother leaves? Well, there will be some lamentation because, of course, she gave me birth. And of course, she nurtured me to be the person that I am today, that I can be a devotee of the Lord. At the same time, I need to be very conscious that my mother is still involved in her material consciousness, right? And that the best I can do for my mother is try to give her some understanding about the soul at this age of life. And she may not, I try to do that many, many times, and she's not ready to accept that, because she's aware that once she starts learning more about who she really is, that she has to face death. And most people don't want to face death. Most people are afraid of facing death. And so for us to know that when someone is in material consciousness, we may lament some, however, we have this philosophical understanding that there's no need to lament because this person is going to take another body. And because I am aspiring to become a devotee of the Lord, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, my mother, I know, will get a better situation in her next birth, in her next life. Because Krishna says like that 100 generations of our family members will get benefited from us trying to be devotees. And so I continue praying to my spiritual master and to Srila Prabhupada that I can be a devotee, that I can become a real devotee, so that I can benefit my mother, who I understand in this point in her life may not be ready, to accept Krishna in her life. At the same time, she's going to get the benefit of me being a devotee. So this attachment to a current body or relatives, Rajana is saying, is still a cause of lamentation. We're still going to lament. I'm still going to lament a little when my mom leaves. However, I will have the philosophical understanding, right? Because Krishna says, Krishna explains to Arjuna, he says, there's no choice but that this attachment to the relatives, even though we have it, he says that we just need to tolerate. We need to tolerate that these things will happen, the dualities of birth and death and non-permanent appearance that comes from sense perception, that comes from our thinking, how our mind is thinking, that will be there. At the same time, though, he says, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that it's important to always remember that the soul is eternal and the body is temporary. And so he's also helping Arjuna to understand that the Kauravas, they cannot escape death. Even if Arjuna don't kill the body, they're still going to die. So this death is inevitable for everyone. And I talked to my sister, who is much more conscious, interestingly, than my mother. And I spoke to my sister a few days ago, and I mentioned something about death. And she says, we never die. And so I was laughing because it's not that she understands the Bhagavad Gita. However, she understands this. She understands we don't die. So even people that may not have this philosophy from Krishna and Arjuna, somehow they're getting this knowledge that we will never die. Of course, that's there in all scriptures, right? That the body is temporary. We have this understanding from the Bible that the body doesn't die, right? We have this understanding that about Jesus when he was on the cross, that he did not die, he resurrected. And so this understanding is there. And so again, Arjuna is still arguing with Krishna. He's still arguing. And this is continuing throughout these, as I said, these texts from 12 to 30. Arjuna is saying, but violence to kill my family members, that's going to incur sins, right? I'm going to kill my family members, and then I'm just going to be considered sinful. And that's that. Who wants to be sinful? I can't be sinful. I'm a Kshatriya. And so Krishna says, however, he says, he tells Arjuna, he says, but violence under my direction does not incur any sinful activities. Violence under my direction. And that we can find in the purport of text 21. You don't have to pull it up, Prue. However, it's there that, Krishna says, because you're doing it under my direction, you're doing it under my instruction. And we understand that when Krishna gives us an instruction, that instruction coming from the Lord himself is an instruction for us to follow. And so then Arjuna, he continues and he says, but Bhishma and Drona, they will lose their present bodies, which are sources of enjoyment for them. So yes, these bodies we have, we do experience some pleasure from these bodies. We do experience some enjoyment. However, Krishna tells Arjuna again, he says, yes, Arjuna, this is true. We do get some pleasure from these bodies. However, this body is like a change of dress. It's just like, we take off one cloth and we put on another cloth. We take off one dress, one outfit, and we put on another one. And so they will get fresh bodies. And so then they can enjoy some more. Right? After 50, yes, Kamania, I definitely can agree with that. After 50, we start experiencing pain in this body. Yes, for sure. Even when people are experiencing pain in the body, people still think I'm enjoying. No matter, we can experience pain nowadays. People just pop a pill to go back so that they can enjoy. Right? This is modern material life. Every now in the pharmaceutical industry, there's something created for every kind of pain that we might experience in our bodies. And so people tend to, just kind of try to avoid the pain by any means necessary. this is why people self-medicate, because they're trying to avoid the pain, not just the physical pain, yes, but the emotional pain. So people are trying to, yes, be so much distracted from material life, from enjoying in material life. This is fact. They think that by doing these things that they won't experience this pain. But Krishna says they're going to get another body, so they can still, even if we try our best to avoid this pain. The fact is that we will experience the pain, and the fact is we will lose this body. However, we will take another body so that we can enjoy again, if that's our desire. Even if we want to enjoy in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, then we just get recycled and we come back and change bodies. That's in text 22. So as we go through this, we're going back into some of these texts that was read, that others have given class on these verses. So then Arjuna says, Krishna says, anyway, Arjuna, weapons, okay, text 22. Let's look at this text. Okay, I'll do the Sanskrit. Navani grinati naro parani tata sarina rani vihaya jirnai nani anyani samyati navani dehe. As person put on new garments, giving up the old ones, the soul similarly accept new bodies and accept the old ones and useless ones. So here we see in the Sanskrit, it says giving up navani, new garments. So, and jirnani, old and useless ones, we give up. Vihaya, we're going to give up these bodies. We're going to give up, and just like we change clothes, we're going to give it up, just like we get new garments, and we're going to throw away the old and useless ones. And so therefore, it's important to understand. It's important to understand that this change of body is an acceptable fact. It's an acceptable fact. And so then Krishna, he then further explains that Arjuna says, Arjuna, he's quite an example for all of us, because many of us, would have some of these same arguments, possibly. And many people have these arguments today. So Krishna knew that. He knew people would have these kinds of questions. And so therefore Arjuna is used to give us, be exemplary. And he says, Krishna says, Arjuna says, anyway, Arjuna, weapons cannot kill the soul, right? Though your weapons, it can't kill the soul. Okay, so you're a kshatriya, you're a fighter, you're a warrior, and you are lamenting because you think that your weapons are going to kill these family members, and so of course you don't want to fight this war because you're a very powerful personality and you have the best of weapons, and yes, we know. However, Arjuna, the fact is your weapons cannot kill the soul. It cannot kill the soul. And again, this is there in text 223 and 224. We can go back and hear about why Arjuna's weapons can't kill the soul. Okay, Krishna is so good. Nainam chindanti sastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachaiva kledyanti apo, nasosyati murataha. So this chindanta can cut into pieces. And he said, your weapon cannot kill the soul. It cannot kill the soul. So the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, no burned by fire, no mercy by, and wood, all kinds of weapons, no matter what. And Prabhupada goes on in the purport to explain, if you scroll down a little bit, he explains that about the nuclear weapon of the modern age, that they are classified as fire weapons. But these fire weapons in this modern age couldn't compare to the kind of weapons that Arjuna had as a kshatriya in that time, in that age. And so Prabhupada says, even though you think, even though this nuclear modern in this age, these nuclear weapons are classified as fire weapons. Arjuna, your weapons are like so powerful, but it cannot cut the soul. It cannot kill the soul. It cannot kill the soul. And so, because the soul can never be cut into pieces, it cannot be annihilated by any weapon, right? Because the soul is part and parcel of the Lord. The soul is made of an entirely different substance than this material body. And so Arjuna says, this is Arjuna's final argument, because he's arguing with Krishna back and forth about this understanding of the soul. He said, what if there's no soul? There's no soul. The body is just all we have. And this is what the materialists, they say always. This is actually, I'm sad to say this, but this is what my mom says all the time. Oh, when I leave this body, that's it. That's it. That's going to be it for me. I'm not, she's not thinking about the fact that, this body is she's once again going to have to take another body. And dear devotees, I've been a devotee for almost 40 years. And so you would think that my mom would think differently. You would think that my mom would be more conscious, right? That this body that she has is temporary. You would think, even though I've been a devotee, I've been away from home since I was 19 years old or something like that. I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for so many years, 40 years, but yet this material consciousness is so strong. It's so strong. And it's not that she does not appreciate that I am a devotee. She appreciates me so very much. And whenever she's in crisis or conflict, she calls me to speak to her. At the same time, this personality, she believes that when I die, that's it. That's the end of it. That is, my body is dead. That's it. And there's nothing more. The reason she's like that is she's afraid of death. She's afraid to face death. So Krishna says to Arjuna, when Arjuna says, what if there's no soul? Krishna says, even if there's no soul, Arjuna, still, there's no cause to lament for the loss of chemicals. Why would you lament over this body that's made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether? So even if there is no soul, your body is made up of all these chemicals. And we don't have to go here, but that's in text 26, just in case anybody wants to go back and read these verses, because these verses are so beautiful and so wonderful. This is what Prabhupada summarizes in this chapter, all of these different verses to help us to understand, okay, whereas we're here at text 26, Ata chainam nichachatam nityam manyashimritam tatapi tvam mahabaho nainam sochitam arhasi. And so this translation is, if, however, you think that the soul or symptoms of life will always be born and be born and die forever, you have no reason to lament. No reason to lament. No reason to lament. So this theme of us not lamenting is very important, because if we lament, when we lament, we're lamenting for this body of chemicals that's made of chemicals. And when we're not aware, as I said, devotees, as aspiring devotees, we are aware. We are aware. We may be intellectually aware and not so much practically aware. However, that awareness is a stepping stone for us to really imbibe this in our life. And so to understand this point that Krishna is making to Arjuna, he says about doing something practical. You need to apply this practically, Arjuna, this knowledge that I'm giving to you. You've given me so many arguments. You can't justify violence because I'm sanctioning this. Prabhupada says in the purport, violence must be justified in terms of sanction of the Lord and not capriciously, meaning not whimsically, not impulsively. One can see that no sin is involved in this kind of violence. It is done under Krishna's direction and with knowledge of the soul and the body. And so, practical application. How do we practically apply this? So Krishna tells Arjuna, the way we practically apply this, because you're a Kshatriya, you should not abandon your prescribed duties out of fear. Don't abandon because you're fearful of your grandfather and your teachers will die in battle. No need to fear the death of your relatives because fighting is the proper duty as a Kshatriya. And no need to fear sinful reaction because he was simply carrying out the will of Krishna. So, dear devotees, we are all attempting to carry out the will of our spiritual master, our spiritual masters, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so this instruction that Krishna is giving to Arjuna is for us. No matter what happens, that it is important for us to always carry out the duties that's prescribed to us in becoming devotees of the Lord, in becoming pure devotees of the Lord. It is important to know why not to lament for this material body, because lamenting for this body means totally being ignorant of the fact that we're spirit souls. However, as devotees, as aspiring devotees, we understand that the pure devotees are not subjected to the same kind of consciousness as the materialist. So sometimes we do lament the bodies of this pure devotees that are leaving us. That is the example of these great and wonderful devotees of the Lord who are pure in consciousness. However, for those that are still somehow binded by the modes of material nature, then when they leave the bodies, then there's no need to lament because they will take another birth. They will get another opportunity. And so this text 30 is so very important because it brings us back into this complete understanding about the soul. And this is the foundation of Bhagavad Gita. If we can get that understanding, if we can get the grace and the mercy to understand that we are the souls, we are souls, then we will have no problem in being devotees for the rest of our lives, for this life on this planet. We will, as my friend Karnamrita said, who just left this body, he just left recently, he said, give this one life to Krishna, this one life to Krishna, because it belongs to Krishna. So thank you very much. And if there are any comments or questions, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mother, for your nice class. I have some questions. When we sometimes during lamentation, it helps in the healing process of the separation of the loss of a loved one. Because when we shed the tears, it helps to heal. And there was a book I was reading, it said that during time of great sadness, our prayers at that time is more connected to God. God easily hears the prayer made during sadness or separation of a loved one. So my question is, how do we compare compassion, lamentation, and insensitiveness? One may lost a loved one. People say you're not the body. They're not insensitive. We are devotees. That means we're not sensitive about people's feelings and sadness. So how do we compare that insensitiveness, compassion, and then lamentation?
Thank you for that really nice question, Kusha Prabhu. As always, you have these beautiful questions. So yeah, I mean, it's important, of course, to be compassionate. The first part of Bhagavad Gita and the first chapter, we see throughout, even from the first chapter to the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna had so much empathy for Arjuna when Arjuna was lamenting his family members. It's not that Krishna just pounced on Arjuna and told him, okay, don't lament. Krishna listened to Arjuna in the beginning of these texts, the first text. And he listened for some time before he actually started explaining to Arjuna the difference between the body and the soul. So in the same way, we are being trained to have empathy, to have compassion, and understand, and have knowledge. So with the knowledge, we know, okay, this person is not the body. However, we are in human bodies, and human bodies do have emotions. And so emotionally, we may respond, to the death of a loved one. At the same time, though, we have knowledge that, okay, I'm responding emotionally. However, transcendentally, I understand this person is not the body. So it's not that we are emotionless. As human beings, we have emotions, and we need to pay attention to our emotions. By expressing our emotions, we can better acknowledge, and we can better actually be expressive of transcendence by understanding these emotions, because emotions are pointing to something. I'm feeling sad. Why am I feeling sad? I'm feeling just disappointed or something. I have some feeling. I'm feeling hurt. This person has left. Sometimes we have people leave very early in their life. So of course it affects us. So when we have these feelings are pointing us to somewhere. So what is the direction? Now that I acknowledge I am feeling really hurt by this person not being here, then we start remembering. Krishna gives us remembrance, gives us forgetfulness also. But then we start remembering, yeah, but you know what? This person, they will either get another body, better body, possibly, or they will get a spiritual body, as Krishna says, right? As Krishna explained. So we need to have, right, knowledge, transcendental knowledge, nescience and transcendence. That's the understanding of Sri Upanishad. Nescience and transcendence side by side. Side by side. We need to know, yes, I am feeling sad, and that's normal. Acknowledge my feelings. However, with knowledge, we fight with knowledge. We fight, we understand, like, okay, I have knowledge about the soul. And so I know what's going to happen, once the soul has left. I hope that's answers.
Thank you, Mother. Yes, thank you. Our next question is from Saradia Ras. Saradia Ras, can you unmute?
Saradia.
Hare Krishna, dear Mother Vrajalila, thank you very much for the class this morning.
Saradia is in South Africa, and she's very active in bringing many different kinds of programs in different parts of the world. So I was just invited by Saradia to speak in London. So yes, Saradia, my love.
Yes. Thank you for that encouragement, Mother. So my signal is quite bad, so I'm not going to put on my video. But I wanted to ask, an interesting question. We see in this section of Bhagavad Gita, you mentioned that Arjuna is basically like arguing with Krishna, and there's this discussion, going back and forth. Now we know we can't compare ourselves to Arjuna because Arjuna is like an eternal associate of Krishna. But my question was, is there any scope for us, like conditioned little jivas, to also have, that type of at least discussion with Krishna as in the form of the super soul or the form of the deity, to have this discussion, to really go to Krishna and say, Krishna, I have these doubts, I have these questions, and to very honestly and openly express it to him. And is there any hope for us, in receiving guidance if we have such discussions with him, either in the form of, prayer or journaling, and so forth?
Thank you, Saradia. Yes, Saradia is also an amazing speaker. She did a program recently on Draupadi. That was amazing. Yes. Okay. So can we go to Paramatma? Can we go to the Lord in the heart, Kishore Dakshai Vishnu, and pray and express our doubts? Yes. And we also want to go to the representative of Paramatma, right? The Lord in the heart is represented by the spiritual master. And the spiritual master is here on this planet to help us to understand our doubts. Now we know in the reality of our organization, we may not have contact with our spiritual master. And so then the spiritual master has representatives. The spiritual master has representatives that we can share our doubts, and we can share them, as you're asking, respectfully. So that's an option. Now, if let's say we are not able to, we don't have, we can do that. We always can do that. We always can go to the Lord's representative, go to the spiritual master. However, the question is, can we go to the super soul and express our doubts? Well, Krishna is kind and loving, right? That's the example that he's giving to us from Arjuna. That because Arjuna is acting in the role of an ordinary jiva, even though he is this exalted personality, still he's taken this role for us. So Arjuna is teaching us that yes, we can go to Krishna. We can go to Krishna and express our doubts. Actually, it's recommended that we express our doubts, as you said, without offenses. Respectfully, without offenses. Somehow, if we're crying out to Krishna, who's this that says that we need to cry to Krishna. And when we say crying to Krishna, that means expressing our doubts to Krishna. And the Lord in the heart is always there with us. So yes, it's important that we connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead within our hearts, with Krishna within our hearts. So I hope that can answer the question. Yes, we want to develop a personal relationship with the Lord. A personal relationship. That's the whole purpose of this dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, that we can develop this mood of understanding that we are eternally connected with the Supreme Lord. However, because we are in these bodies, we are conditioned by the modes of material nature. And so therefore, when we become aware how difficult, Prabhupada explains in the 15th chapter, that we're struggling in this material world, I believe it's 15:7, with the mind and the senses. And it's just such a hard struggle as in conditioned life. So the Lord in the heart is there and always there to give us solace in the heart. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj wrote the book, Solace in the Heart, how to find Krishna, how to find solace from the Lord in the heart. And when we turn to Krishna in the heart, when we go to Krishna, then we always will get some relief. Always. I've experienced that in my own life so many times. When I'm totally in distress, I just sit quietly and I just connect, with my spiritual master and with the Lord in the heart. And I just beg. I don't know what to do in this situation because my spiritual master isn't physically on the planet. And so physically, I would have been able to go to my spiritual master. However, I need to access my spiritual master just like I access the Lord in the heart. And I go and I totally don't know what to do. You need to help me. I don't know what to do. And this situation is totally overwhelming. And I always get answers, sometimes right away. I'll give you an example, a real quick example. I've been having a desire to worship Srimati Tulsi Devi in our home. I haven't had the plant. I worship her by picture, but not the plant. And I've been wanting the plant. And so, so that's been there. And so somehow, I kind of been putting it on the back burner, because I know what it takes to worship Tulsi Devi. You got to give attention and love and care, and you got to be present. And I'm so busy. However, that desire was strong. So I called the temple and I asked for a Tulsi plant for me to worship. And the temple told me that it's not proper to give out Tulsi from the temple. It's not, there's some regulation or rules that says Tulsi shouldn't leave the temple. And so I was like, okay. And I thought, okay, I want to worship Tulsi. However, I guess I'm not supposed to worship her. And I said, I just went to my spiritual master in my heart, the Lord in the heart also. And I said, okay, I wanted to worship Tulsi, but it looks like Tulsi is not coming. So Haribo, I don't have to be guilty, right? I have to play the guilt game. That next day, the very next day, I get a call from someone in New York. I live in Pennsylvania. They called me from New York the very next day and said, Mataji, I'm 9 months. This is one of my mentee. And she says, the baby's coming soon. She's 9 months pregnant. The baby's coming soon. And I don't know if I can give our Tulsi the same attention because I'm going to need to give the baby attention. So could you take Tulsi for us and worship her for us? I was like, what? That was the very next day that happened. Now, this person is in New York. This is like a 4-hour drive. And so I agreed. I said, okay, I will take your mother Tulsi because she has this huge Tulsi plant. I said, I will take your mother Tulsi. However, how will I get her? She's in New York. I'm not coming to New York because we have this COVID thing going on. She says, Mata, we will drive her to you. We will bring her to you. And she said, if you don't want us to come inside the house, it's okay. You can just take her from the car when we come. Every arrangement was being made. And of course, when they came, because she's 9 months pregnant, I hadn't seen her. I, of course, had to let her into our home. And so we have this huge Tulsi plant, right? That now is requiring me to be present and be affectionate and give care. And so the point I'm making here is that if we cry out, if we cry out for help, if we reach out for help to the Lord within the heart, to the spiritual master within the heart, certainly Krishna will reciprocate. I can tell you many, many, many stories. This one just happened this past weekend. They just drove here this past weekend with Tulsi Devi. So every day now, Tulsi's over here and I'm like praying, my dear Lord, my dear Tulsi Maharani, my dear Tulsi Maharani. I'm so grateful you're here. I'm so grateful because she's so beautiful. And yeah, just when I sing the prayers, I just feel so deeply connected. To Tulsi Devi. So that's one simple story. One simple story. I hope that's helpful, Sardia.
Thank you, Mother. We have question in the chat room, but we take the one raised hand, Narayani, then Keshava, then question in the chat room. Narayani, please unmute.
Thank you. Haribo, Narayani.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. My question is, when somebody leaves the body and the person is very sinful and the person have to go to hellish planet, does the soul go with him in the hellish planet?
That's a beautiful question. And I love the Jagannath behind you, your backdrop. Lord Jagannath. I have a Jagannath on my arm.
Oh, my, beautiful.
My Jagannath. The soul goes everywhere. Yes, the soul goes everywhere. The soul will take a body in a hellish planet. And because that's the meaning of samsara, right? Birth, the transmigration process is that we're always taking different bodies. So in the hellish planets, there's bodies there. Yeah. So yes, the soul will definitely enter into another body, even in the hellish planets. Soul is in everything, everywhere, all living entities. Perhaps someone that's been very, very sinful will take birth in another body, another type of body. But the soul, Krishna is just so kind. This is Krishna's mercy. He's with us. Every single form that we could possibly take. And by the time we become devotees, We have already taken many of those forms. You know, we've been through so many of those forms by the time we get this opportunity to be a devotee. And that's why Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, because it's so important for us to take this one life that we've been given here as devotees, where we are aware, and take it and let it have some meaning, some real meaning. Yeah, this life is for Krishna, this one we have now. Because we know that the soul can enter into so many different species, different places. Yeah. Even in the hellish planet, though, there's devotees of Krishna to help. There's people that go there to help.
Thank you, Mother.
Thank you so much.
Next question is from Keshava Prabhu. Keshava, please.
Hare Krishna, Keshava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much for the class. You have a very nice motherly approach. It really makes people feel cared for. Very inspiring. When I was reading, well, I had my Gita open as well, and I was reading the purport to the text you were reading from the second chapter. And that brought to mind a conversation that Hansadutta had with this Dr. Abraham Kavur in Sri Lanka in 1977. And that led to the publication of the book, Life Comes from Life. And in that, where I think this Dr. Kavur had appeared at a Ramakrishna mission, and he was giving a lecture in one of these halls. And he was saying, this is in 1977, he was willing to give 100,000 Sri Lankan rupees to any of these so-called God-men, saints who could exhibit any kind of mystic powers, read minds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then Hansadutta countered, if Dr. Kavur could create life, you know, he in turn would offer 500,000 rupees to that. And that's just a wonderful book, because Kavur had said, is there life after death? And this whole long debate ensued between both Hansadutta and Dr. Kavur, resulting in this absolutely magnificent book, Life Comes from Life. So I just wanted to suggest it's a very good book for general reading and also for distribution to anybody. If anybody has any doubts about the doctrine and of both karma and reincarnation, this will slay any doubts that one may have. So thank you very much for the next class.
Thank you for sharing that, Keshava. That is a really, really wonderful book. Life Comes from Life. I remember Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. He also, you know, has written so much from taking some of the essence of Life Comes from Life and given us amazing, amazing, amazing literatures about understanding the soul and how important it is to understand, as you said, transmigration of the soul. So thank you so much for sharing that, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. In the chat room is Kamane Devidase. She's asking, thank you for the wonderful class. Sometimes in our community, in our immaturity, some of us tend to neglect the need of our bodies and our physical and mental health. We think we need to try to totally transcend our bodies and our emotional and mental health, like some of the great saints in our lineages seems to do. We have seen that this has caused many problems in our movement. These devotees can become callous towards themselves and in turn towards other devotees. Could you kindly speak to this issue of ignoring our health? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamania, my friend from Switzerland. Kamania is an amazing singer. She has recorded so many beautiful, 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 you know, bhajans and songs for Krishna. And she's just amazing. And she actually is so actively involved in sharing all over Facebook, all over ISKCON, everything that we're doing, anything that, especially for the Vaishnavis, she's always finding ways to let us promote us in different social media. So thank you so much. She's called me wrote to me a few days ago, and she said, please send me African promo so I can be sure to get it out. I want to get it out. So this is Kamania. She's on all the social medias you can think about. So Kamania, there's something that is that we call spiritual bypassing. And Rambaru speaks about this. Rambaru Mataji, she speaks about this quite a lot in her course that she teaches. Spiritual bypassing is the tendency that we have as aspiring devotees to bypass the things that are important, like our physical body, as you said, our mental body. Yes. So we are to be concerned with ourselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, because we do have these bodies. We must care for these bodies. Our bodies are our temple. These minds that we have are important. So it's not just spiritual. It's not that we're not, in most cases, at least I can say I'm not, transcendental. So therefore we are aspiring to become transcendental. We can't say that we are on the level of the sages, and even the sages we see, if we look at the life of who is that was meditating underwater for however many thousands of years, and then saw these two fishes that they were copulating, they were having sex, and immediately lost it, and had to take another birth. Who's that?
So Bari Muni, I think.
Bari Muni. Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore it is important for us to address our physical health care. It is important for us to address our emotional health care. Actually, that's an area that I spend a lot of time trying to assist myself and to assist other devotees, is the emotional care, because that's when we neglect so much, and it causes chaos, in ourselves, and it causes chaos for other people. If we don't understand basics, if we don't understand how we feel, if we don't understand our own feelings, if we don't understand our own needs, then really we will create havoc for someone else, because we don't have the basic understanding. So therefore, in understanding this body, it's important to understand why we have this body. What is this body here for? And how do we use it nicely in Krishna service? And in order to do that, we must take care of it. This mind that we have, why does the mind cause us miseries and sufferings? We need to take care of it. We need to understand how it works. And so socially, we interact with people. Our psychosocial nature affects people in the world. So how do we care for our psychosocial nature? These are all things that are so very important. So yes, absolutely. Let's not be spiritual bypassers. Let's not spiritually just think, I'm transcendental. I'm not this body. No, yes, we are not this body. However, we are in this body. And we need to understand that these bodies are given to us for a reason. And we are in different kinds of bodies for a reason. We're in women's bodies or black bodies or brown bodies or white bodies. We are in it for a reason, to be utilized in Krishna's service. How can we best use it to serve Krishna? I hope that's helpful, Kamaniya.
Thank you, Mother. Next question from Sahadev Prabhu. Sahadev, please.
Hare Krishna, my dear son, Sahadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Mother, I have one quick question for you.
Yes.
And I know Lord Krishna gave Lord Brahma the services of creation. And I think Lord Brahma made mistake the way he created the way human beings have to live their bodies. We're trying to understand that we are immortal, as Krishna is explaining in this text and the verse, as Prabhupada also explains. I understand the angels, they do not fall sick and die poorly as we do. They just disappear. So why would the Lord Brahma treat the angels that way and not treat the human beings quite fairly? Because it's so painful to see your loved one go through some sort of ailment, some pains before they leave the body. It's so painful. I'm not trying to say you tell Lord Brahma, but if you can, please.
Hare Krishna, Sahadev. You know, Sahadev Prabhu, I am hearing your empathy, and I'm hearing your compassion for the living entities. And given that you're a nurse and working with people that are really, really ill, I absolutely can understand that question. Because yes, when we see people dying, and we maybe see that on a daily basis, it is heartbreaking because there's nothing we can do, right? And especially when we see the relatives of these people, then they can't do anything. So the best we can do is to have this knowledge, to have this understanding, right? That's the best we can do as devotees. And I'm always so appreciative. I'm always so appreciative of how you find ways to listen, to hear from your work, because I know like you hiding somewhere to do that. So yes, this question about Lord Brahma, we're gonna need to go to Krishna. So if you, yeah, let's put a petition into Krishna and ask him why he created Brahma and gave him that service. Sometimes, you know, as a devotee and serving my spiritual master, and he would give me services to kind of sometimes be heavy with people. And I would be like, why do I have to do that? They're gonna not like me. They're gonna get upset at me, you know. However, that was the service that was needed. That was the service my spiritual master gave me, and it really did create an enmity with many people that didn't understand the essence of why I might have been the person, the instrument that was used to help bring awareness to another person. And sometimes me, in my own immaturity, I might have done it in a way that may not have connected. You know, we know that, you know, words can be windows or they can be walls. And sometimes in my own immaturity, I might have created walls instead of windows. And so as far as Lord Brahma, though, he is appointed by Krishna. He is given his role and direction from Krishna. So I don't have a direct connection to Krishna yet to ask him, you know, why you did that. However, I do feel that pain that you're feeling. I do understand that pain. Yes, it is difficult. At the same time, again, transcendental knowledge. We must remember that when people leave, they're not their bodies. We must keep this, you know, in our consciousness. Otherwise, we will also become casualties. We'll become casualties by our emotions. So we need to be conscious, you know, that we are beyond these emotions. Emotions are important. We need to understand them. I can feel sad. At the same time, I can feel the pain. At the same time, I must remember simultaneously, simultaneously, I must remember this person is not the body. They're not the body. They're the soul. And for that, we can pray. You're in an environment where you can chant Hare Krishna for these personalities that you might see or you might come across. However, I have so much empathy for that service you do, so much. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for that. Thank you. There is a verse of Prabhupada that concerns the class you gave today. It's on the screen. Prabhupada is helping you.
We may discover so many defending instruments or weapons, but there is no defense from the cruel hands of death. However, you may be advanced in manufacturing so many nice things. You cannot manufacture anything that can save you from death or from disease or from old age. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. And I want to just acknowledge very quickly Mitravinda, who is also here. Mitravinda, I teach a Bhagavad Gita class every day, and Mitravinda is one of my guest teachers.
Yeah, she has a question. We're taking her question now. Mitravinda, kindly unmute and ask your question, please.
Hare Krishna Mata, Hare Krishna Vaishnavas. Thank you so much. I just wanted to reflect on Mother Vrajalila speaking about the body and acknowledging the different compartments or different areas in which we can honor our commitment as being spirit souls through making sure that these different compartments which relate to the body, you know, as we are spirit souls, and honoring our commission as servants in Lord Chaitanya's mission, but remembering that these different compartments that regard the body are very important. I was having a reflection and sharing with someone about the body, and Mother Vrajalila brought it home very nicely, that oftentimes, you know, we don't view the body as a gift. It is an amazing and a very rare gift, being that there are 8,400,000 bodies that exist. And we are so fortunate that we have gotten this human body, you know, as it says in Bhagavad Gita. And so we're able to have consciousness, we're able to chant the holy names, we're able to share this process with others and help them to move forward in their journey, and hopefully not go backwards in the different models of vehicles that we have. So I wanted to thank Mother Vrajalila for sharing that so nicely and putting it so nicely, that we have to take care of our mental health, our physical health, and then at the same time honoring our mission and commission as servants in this way. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mitra. Hari, 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 Hari. As I said, Mitra is one of the teachers on our Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, we have a Bhagavad Gita daily devotional. And Mitra is one of our host teachers there. So thank you so very much, my love. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Our next question is from George Amega. George Amega, on mute, please.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mother, thank you very much for your wonderful lecture. My question is in relation to Sahadev Prabhu's question. In the subterranean heaven, we know that over there, they go, but you can see that they are old age. But here you can see that this person is old with gray hair and so forth. So I would like to know, over there, what type of body do they dwell in? Is it the subtle body or the gross body? Hare Krishna.
Haribol, George, so nice to hear you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're asking if in the heavenly planets, if they have subtle bodies or gross bodies?
No. I mean the subterranean heaven, not the upper heaven.
The subtle.
I mean in the subterranean heaven, not in the
on the subterranean heavens. Okay. Okay. If I understood Sahadev's question, he was talking about the angels, and as far as I understand, Prabhu, everyone has a body. There's a physical body. Even like Prabhupada often says, when we commit suicide, we become ghosts, and that's only subtle. That's usually a subtle body. But however, that subtle body is still a body. It's still some kind of a body. So as far as I understand, there is always a body. Now, the subtle part of that body might be more aware than than persons in the gross body. Sometimes in these gross bodies we have here on earth, people are in the modes of ignorance or passion, and so they don't have any awareness about the mode of goodness. Many people don't. Now people are becoming more aware of the mode of goodness. In the subtle elements and the subtle planets, people are, especially the heavenly subtle planets, are more aware of of the mode of goodness. But it's not that they don't have a body, as I understand. Now, I can be corrected on that. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Okay. So my question is it the subtle body that they dwell in or is gross? That is my question.
Is there a subtle body?
Question, Prabhu, if you can help me clarify the question for mother. So, yeah, do they dwell in the subtle body or is the gross body that they also dwell in the subterranean heaven? I don't know if any of the devotees on the platform can hear me. You can clarify the question for mother.
Okay, Mother is saying
okay,
question is if they dwell in the subtle body or in the gross body.
Kusha Prabhu, are you? Is the question is if living entities on the subterranean?
Yeah, if they dwell in this in the gross body or also in the subtle body.
Yeah. As far as I understand, you can have living entities in the subtle body, and as well as the gross body, as well as not the gross material body like we have on Earth. However, there is a body. There is a body. Now, as far as I understand, George, living entities can also be in the subtle body. It means they don't have, some living entities don't have gross body like we have gross bodies. Yes, that can be there. When we talk about like the planets where Lord Indra lives or Lord Brahma lives or these personalities, their subtle bodies are very elevated, extremely elevated. However, as far as I understand, they have also some kind of body. Now, I don't know if those bodies, I don't believe those bodies are gross like ours. I need to kind of study that a little more, if you will. Our body is made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. And so the subtle bodies in the heavenly planets, I believe, are made from more subtle elements. However, I do need to research that a little more. If there's anyone on the platform that would like to share about that, please do. Please do.
Maybe Ganga Prasad can share. It's a Mahajan.
Ganga Prasad or Salika or all of the devotees that are here that are, yeah, all the Sashaites or the scholars.
Prabhu Ganga, where are you?
Mother Raj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Well, my little understanding before the big guns come in, it's just like what you explained, because subterranean, I mean, even the word itself indicates that it's a subtle world. So they have subtle bodies. And like you said, even though they are bodies, but the bodies are subtle instead of gross. Ours are gross and theirs are subtle. And even with the subtle, there are also different levels. Just as gross bodies have different levels, there are some gross bodies that are very strong. There are some gross bodies that are very weak. And so ghosts have subtle bodies, but such bodies are very weak and somehow like condemned. Whereas the beings in the subterranean bodies, worlds, they have subtle bodies, but their bodies are much more refined. So that is my little understanding. But like you said, body is body. The only difference is the way it is formed. Ours is with the 5 gross material elements. The subtle do not use these 5 gross elements. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sahadev. And before Ganga Prasad comes, I think Saradia, she also said Brahma's body is made from intelligence, so that's subtle. So yes, Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I seem not to have a conflicting input from what they have said and also your answer.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Prabhu Ganga, you are muted.
Ganga Prabhu, you're muted.
I said, I am muted already. I am muted. And I said, I don't have a conflicting input than what you have said and others have contributed equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. I so much love how in Africa everyone speaks proper English.
Prabhu Saleka, I want to say something.
Yes, actually, my business mother, thank you very much for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhu.
In regards to Judge Amega's body question regarding the bodies, in every planet there is different bodies. The only difference is the constitution of the elements that constitute the particular body. I was trying to actually look for a particular purport of Srila Prabhupada really explained, but I know in chapter 8, in text 3, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the living entities within the material nature gets different kinds of body according to its activities. So the bodies are there in every, from the highest planet to the lowest planet, whichever planet it is. The only difference is the constitution of the contents of the material elements that constitute that particular body. And Prabhupada also explained in another purport that some living entities could live inside fire because they have the particular element of fire as gross in their constitution of the body. So that's what I was going to share. So there is bodies.
Yes. Thank you so very much. This is wonderful. I love this teamwork. So George, in answer to your question, we have this body now that we have, and our great fortune is that we can hear from the spiritual master and become pure devotees in this lifetime. In this very lifetime. So let's use these bodies.
Okay, Mother.
This body, let's use this body wisely.
Mother, there is.
Okay, Mother. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Maybe there is what Prabhupada said on this verse of Bhagavad Gita. Maybe can help George. It's chapter 8, text 3 on the screen.
Okay.
Read the George can read the translation.
The translation. Can you read the translation, Prabhu? You can do that.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Ayatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. So according to this verse, the activity we do produces our karma. And according to such activities, we take that kind of body, either in subtle or gross or ghost, whatever it takes you, according to your activities. So we should, to my understanding, we should not really concern ourselves if the spirit is dwelling in the subtle body or gross body of activities, determines which body we dwell in. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, if you go to the purport down, yes, therefore is called the Supreme Personality, Supreme Laws, marginal energies, according to its identification, which material or spiritual nature. Then this is the main point. He said, it receives a material body or spiritual body. In material nature, it may take a body from any of the 8,400,000 species of life. But in spiritual nature, he has only one body. So in the material nature, in the 8,400,000 species, which comprises of both higher and lower living entities, within the 8,400,000 species, the living entity takes different kinds of body, but the constitution of the body is different. That's what I was referring to. So Prabhupada said there are various bodies in any of those planets. Thank you.
Ivo, thank you so much. So back to George, the subtle body in this body we have is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So we need to be conscious of our subtle body so that we can transform our subtle body into a spiritual body. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mother. Is any other question? Kindly raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask, please. Mother, I don't know how long time you have for us.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Very well. Yes, please, maybe one more question.
Okay, now we'll ask some controversial question. On the issue of the spirits and the body, you're not the body, you should arm yourself, Arjuna, and fight. We are not the body, but how do we fight physically for Krishna's movement, like ISKCON? Knowing that we are not the body, something might be going on that is not really good, and we are transcendentally situated, forgetting that we are in this body, though we are not the body. Can we just neglect making corrections, making things nicely and say, oh, forget it, it can get spoiled, we're not the body, Aham Brahmasmi, doesn't matter. And if you try to make things right, like somebody want to take away a boss belonging to Haranam Sankirtan, a thief is stealing the boss, I say, oh, Prabhu, just leave him, let him take the boss, we're not the body, just chant Hare Krishna. How do we compare we're not the body and protecting properties of ISKCON?
Thank you. That's another, like you said, that question can go all over the place. Yes, we're not the body. However, again, these bodies are to be utilized in Krishna's service. And so fight, Arjuna, fight. Krishna instructed Arjuna in this situation to fight his relatives. And so oftentimes we see that we fight our relatives, especially in our ISKCON organization. However, the principle of why we're fighting needs to be there. We don't fight just to fight. We fight because it's going to protect Srila Prabhupada's mission, and we fight because it's going to protect ultimately the legacy of carrying on what Krishna wants for the Krishna consciousness movement to go on, the legacy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the legacy of the Lord, the legacy of Srila Prabhupada. We fight for that, and whatever it takes to fight for that. If we know that people are going to be affected, in our planet by words, we fight to make sure those words are proper. If we have, like you gave the example of a bus of, if things are being misused in Krishna's service, then we fight, not confrontational fight, not that, we fight with just trying to defeat another person. We fight with empathy, we fight with compassion, we fight with knowledge to educate and make others aware of how to best utilize things in Krishna's service. And we all of us have an obligation to fight for Srila Prabhupada's mission, every one of us.
Thank you, Mother. Anybody has question, or we can let Mother have Saradev have a post on the chat room. Not controversial to me, though. We need to know what to do in the right way and in the right spirit. Beautiful answer. Our next question comes from Vrajalila Devidas. Please unmute.
Haribol Rasalila.
Hi, Krishna Mother.
The beautiful daughter of Sunita and our dear Govinda. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, Mother.
Thank you. Rasa.
It's more of it's more of a comment than a question. Actually, Bhattacharya Swami Maharaj, he I don't remember exactly the class, but he did at one point say that when a devotee, leaves the world, leaves the material world, it's appropriate to grieve, not for the body itself, but for the association that we're missing. And in feeling sorrow, in mourning that loss, we actually connect deeper. So in the point of not being the body, he connected that. And then I remember also, I think one of the senior devotees were saying that Maharaj, one of the last things he said for leaving the body, this material world, is that he said he would be with us. He would show his love more so when he's gone than he ever did, being on the physical plane. So that also connects to the point where we're eternal beings. The soul never dies, and we're always, in constant connection with Krishna. So I just thought I would mention that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. So beautiful to hear your voice and see you. We don't get a chance to have that. So thank you so much, Rasa. Yes, Bhakti Maharaj, he taught us how to have empathy, he taught us how to be compassionate. He taught us how to care. He taught us how to understand our feelings and how to express our feelings. And at the same time, he taught us how to take this knowledge and take the essence of the knowledge and apply it in our life. This is Bhakti Maharaj's a part of his legacy. And so, yes. So what you shared that he said is just, yes, what we're all trying to live. All of us are trying to exemplify, be examples of what he lived as a teacher. He was one of the most incredible teachers on this planet. Yeah. Thank you, Kamaniya. First become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. So yes, this was the mood of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And thank you, Rasa.
Thank you, Mother. We have Abena Pada, don't know, I think from US also, has a question. Abena, please unmute.
Abena, hey, you're on here early. Our Chakra's daughter.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Hare Chakra Prabhu. Okay, Hare Chakra Prabhu.
Thank you for your class.
Thank you.
Immediately I came from the altar, I said, okay, today I'm going to listen. There's no way I'm not going to leave. I'm going to listen before I go to work.
I was thinking you were on the altar.
Yeah, I was on the altar. I just returned from the altar a couple of minutes ago. Yeah. Thank you.
How can I serve you? Don't ask me a question, please. How can I serve you?
I always enjoy your class because anytime you give class, when even I'm not on the forum, I take time to go to YouTube to listen to whatever you have to say because it helps. It helps a lot. Like sometimes when things are getting off hand, when we listen to those classes, it's able to suit our us. What I was going to say is like the question that Kusha asked about whether we have to just ignore everything and let things go because we say we are not these bodies. And I just wanted to just give just a small comment, even though you gave such a wonderful answer, but I just wanted to give such a comment. And my comment is like biblically in Matthew chapter 10, verse 34, after Jesus preaching all about compassion and everything, then he went in verse 34, he says, I did not bring peace in this world. I brought sword. I came to let son rise against the father, daughter against the mother. He who loves mother and father or sibling more than me is not worthy of me. In other words, we know definitely that we are not these bodies, but at the same time, we use these bodies to help us serve Krishna. So if we have to protect stuff, we have to protect Krishna's property, then we should be able to go to every extent to be able to protect Krishna's property. But so that verse that I just quoted from Matthew chapter 10, verse 34, I don't think it necessarily means that Jesus said we should go and take the physical sword and go against our parents and go against go and kill our siblings. But he's telling us that we should go beyond this physical and be able to understand that if Krishna, even our very body belongs to Krishna, and this body, because it belongs to Krishna, we must take proper care of it. Otherwise, we will be mistaken, and Krishna will ask us, he will question us, that why didn't you take care of the body that I gave to you? So even though we claim we are not this body, but the body is very important because Krishna's property needs to be cared for. Likewise, if there is anything like the car that Kusha was saying, that if there is somebody, we have a car that is used for Harinam and somebody is misusing the car, do we have to keep quiet? No, it's Krishna's property. We have to speak out. We have to make sure we put things in the right place. So that is just a little contribution that I was trying to chip in. So thank you very much, Madam Vrajalila, for all the time that you take to. I know your schedule is you have such a busy schedule, and yet you still get a chance to come up here and tell us a couple of things that will help us in our day-to-day existence. Thank you very much.
Hari Chakra Prabhu, thank you. You're such an amazing example for all of us. Yeah, there's so many beautiful things I can say about Hari Chakra and his family that support us and nurture us here in Gita Nagari. And Hari Chakra Prabhu himself, he's one of those generals of our Guru Maharaj, of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And we have so much respect for him. That verse you quoted from the Bible, I believe the principle of that verse, the principle that Jesus was helping his students, he helping all the world to understand, is to love thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And ultimately, this is the principle of bhakti, for us to really understand the purpose of why we even have this body, is to develop love for Krishna, right? This is the main principle. And as Hari Chakra Prabhu said, yes, as we are developing this love for Krishna, we're in this body, and we need to show by action. And so the action may vary in different ways. And the action is to protect the mission. In our case, in Krishna consciousness. However, never forget the principle, which is to never forget Krishna, right? Never forget Krishna. That is our main goal. It's because, these bodies we have, we're gonna not be in them also. And what will be our legacy? What legacy will we leave? Will we leave a legacy that we are fighting for property, which is important? It's not that it's not important. However, we want to live a legacy that we were doing that on behalf of our Guru, on behalf of developing love for Krishna. So thank you so much, Hari Chakra.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you so much. Thank you for nice class today, 2 hours. Yeah, sorry. We ask our devotees to kindly unmute yourselves. Let's chant Hare Krishna to Mother for comment, and we expect to have her again soon.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Ram. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mata. Thank you so much for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Sardia, my love. Thank you. Haribol.
Wonderful to have your association. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
And it's lovely to meet more devotees that are based in Africa. It's really inspired by their presence and their questions.
Thank you so much, Mother Vrajalila. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Haribol.
These African devotees are so wonderful.
Of course, yes. Yes, this is family. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare.
Yes, but I will share the link now. You mean the link of this Kirtan of Maharaj? I will share it now, please.
Haribol. Haribol.
Where is it?
Gopala Raja. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Mother Kamanari, I have shared the link on the chat room with the video. Thank you.
Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Hare Rupa, Jagadish. Jagadish, Jagadish, B.Gita, Nara Hare Rupa, Jagadish, Jagadish, B.Gita, Nara Rupa, Jagadish, Jagadish, Jagadish. Debo.
I live, nice.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Debo. Pataya. Jagannath Swami. Ravinda.
I see, Mata. I see. Hare Krishna. This is so sweet. Haribo.
So many Matajis in the guitar. Good.
Yeah, our Mitravinda is right there. Nanda Rupa.
Oh my goodness, I just saw Jai Devaki as an infant. So sweet.
Agni Dev, Agni Das. Eto Nishan.
Another familiar face.
Yeah, Sander.
Yes. Madhusidana.
Madhusudan.